Good morning and welcome to Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg and it's the 29th day of February 2024. Welcome to our show today. I'm kind of excited about this because y'all know that I'm kind of a little bit of a nerd researcher. I like to jump in and find out as much information on subjects as I can possibly find. And I don't like to rely on other sources because we all know that most of the stuff that's in fake news out there, they're lying their tails off in order to cover things up. And I think this is going to be really interesting. And so our guest this morning is, of course, Jason Ickes, who you've all met before on the show. Good friend of mine, running for office, and a seriously inspiring patriot. I'm gonna let him talk a little bit about himself too. And Jason Ladd. And so I just met Jason Ladd, and he works for the America Project, and he is an information systems specialist, where he plays a critical role in managing and securing information systems to support important initiatives. He's a retired U.S. Army infantryman and intelligence collector. Yay, I love that kind of stuff. He earned a master's of science degree in international relationships, which further demonstrates his commitment to professionalism, education, and growth. He's a dedicated husband, family. He's got all kinds of pursuits and such. And let's see, he's additionally, he is serving as executive vice president of a veteran organization, so showcases his dedication and support to fellow veterans. So anyhow, here we go, guys. Morning, Jason and Jason. How are you guys doing?
Jason squared, doing great.
J squared, there you go. Hey, I like this. This is a good group right here.
Oh yeah.
So what are we talking about today? We're talking about open source intelligence, which it allows people to find anything. Really, there as we were speaking about it, is that there's always a digital footprint out there, and once something goes over the internet, it's forever. It is forever unless there's an EMP that fries everything. And then I'm not even sure that's going to work, quite honestly. So you have to be okay with whatever goes out on any form of digital media, and realize that it's not as secure as what we're led to believe, because I have a little tech company, and so we've done some cybersecurity and such, and I can tell you right now, it's very easy to pick up information, and it's also easy to get yourself in trouble. So I kind of want to go there first and talk about some of the risks of getting on, say, the dark web, and why this is important. I'm going to lay the groundwork for this just a little bit, because our wonderful criminal politicians have written laws which really are for protecting themselves. When you talk about the censorship, we have the chilling effect, where all of us are kind of afraid to go into certain areas because you can actually be in trouble for having possession of materials, and you may not even know that you've gone there. So like I do not research on the dark web. I think that it's way too easy to get into trouble, even though we do have nodes on Tor for broadcast. I don't research there. And part of this is it starts with possession laws. And if you know any background on the FBI and how good they are and what business they're in the business of entrapping people and getting them in trouble. They are not standing for our rights. They are not even doing a decent investigation. All you have to do is look at J6. There's just so many instances out there. It's incredible. So we have to realize that the possession laws were designed to entrap people and harass them. They're not to go for the core of the issue. They're not going to the base. This is an attack on Americans, and we do need to talk about that. And so those are some of the zero tolerance laws, all that sort of thing. So easy. If you want to plant drugs on somebody, or if they want to plant drugs on you, all they got to do is tape something to the bottom of your car when you walk into a supermarket, and they gotcha. And it's a well worth talking about. But I want to bring up another point too, is that it's amazing with everything out there. We know that Aaron Swartz found all of that porn on the MIT computers. They're being housed on government military computers, and they found it. And I'm going to be the first one out there to tell you, it's on Google. It's on all the big servers out there and search engines, including Google and such. And so why is it that they're not shutting this down? and walking away. There's a really big discussion we need to have on this, but I'm going to just warn everybody. If you're searching, you better know what you're doing and know where you're going. But there are some safe sites that we can steer you to too, so you can find anything and really begin the trek into researching. I research all the time, and you just need to know some safety precautions. So there's our little bit of a warning there.
Well, Mr. Ladd, I think you've got it from there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm just going to kind of drop it right there, mic drop, and say, now let's go into talking about what you guys know and different sources that people can find good information on, and where we're going to start, base level, and then we'll go into the weeds from there.
Right. Well, as I was watching the introduction to the Brandenburg News Network, one thing that stood out to me was question everything you had on there. That just popped up and it stayed in my mind as I was watching it. And the next thing was waking up to truth. And we as the intelligence experts, and I can't use that word lightly, because I don't think anyone in the intelligence field is an expert in anything other than bullshit. But if
cowboy up stuff.
Yeah. If I can say that and use that word lightly, but in the intelligence field, when you question everything, you start waking up to a lot of truth. You start looking into things, and then earlier we were discussing offline before we come on live about the OODA loop, and we were kind of making jokes about it, but the OODA loop, for people that don't understand and that are not in the intelligence field, you can use the OODA loop in any business format. It's observe, orient, decide, and act. So you're constantly observing, right? You're constantly observing your surroundings, situational awareness, and you want to orient yourself. That second O of the OODA loop, you want to orient yourself to what's going on around you in that situation. And then at that point, you want to decide. You want to decide what is happening. What are your next steps? What are you going to look into before you make that last part of the OODA loop, which is the A, and that's the act, right? What are you going to do? So observe, orient, decide, and act. You have to put that into perspective. Maybe make a circle, right, out of it, or a decision wheel, as you may. And you get into that OODA loop and you start going, okay, well, let me observe, let me orient myself, let me decide what I'm going to do about this. And then your action comes in through that open source intelligence that we discussed, right? So how do you get into this? What is open source intelligence? Where do you get this information? It's the web, right? Google search. Anytime you type something into Google search, into that search engine, or if you use DuckDuckGo, or you use Safari, or you're using all of these different search engines, you're conducting open source intelligence, right? So we look at the definition. What is that definition? There's no, I wouldn't say there's no strategic definition to open source intelligence, right? If we look at it, I pulled up the definition here off of Wikipedia, and it's a method to gather and analyze the publicly available information for investigation or any specific purpose. That's a broad explanation of what OSINT is. You can really get deep. You can really go down deep into a rabbit hole and start talking about the Boolean searches, right? If you've never heard the word Boolean search, what is it? And, or, and not. Those three words, anytime you type it into a Google search platform, if you type in Jason Ladd and Jason Ickes, Jason Ladd or Jason Ickes, Jason Ladd, not Jason Ickes, right? Those are the things that you're looking for. So if you're looking for an article or something where myself and Jason Ickes were out there on the, speaking on a corner somewhere with a megaphone and yelling at people and calling them ugly names. And it's all over YouTube. And, you would put in there Jason Ladd and Jason Ickes. A lot of things are going to come up, but if you want to narrow it down in a Boolean search in an open source platform, you're going to put Jason Ladd in, let's say, parentheses, or Jason Ladd in, quotation marks. And then you're going to put and then you're going to put Jason Ickes in quotation marks or parentheses, right? Either one. Both of those are going to narrow down some really large searches, right? You want both of those in there to get that search, to get that Boolean search out of the way. The word Boolean is it's crazy. It comes from this I think his name was George or Greg Boole, and he created this algorithm. He created this thing with this Boolean search for Google. And then they call it the Boolean search, right? So in the intelligence field, especially in OSINT, as an OSINT analyst or a targeting analyst in the intelligence field, they use these Boolean searches in everyday. You go to MacDill Air Force Base, where some of the largest intel organizations are stationed, or you go to Fort Belvoir, Virginia, the spookiest place in the entire world. If you don't believe me, just go there and look. It's a strange place. I've been there a couple of times, and I don't ever want to go back. It's worse than the Pentagon, right? The Pentagon is nothing more than the devil's lair, if you want to ask me. But I don't want to stray off on that deal. But
well, that's okay. We're not giving any organization that has any ties to the government any
credit
slack here, because they if they were actually doing their job, we wouldn't be in this nut job of a situation we're in right now with the United States of America. So yeah, I'm not giving anybody slack.
I had a really, really close friend of mine. He's a mentor. I'm not going to name his name on here just for privacy reasons, but he was a general. He was a special operations general, very, I guess, instrumental in creating one of the most elite U.S. Army Special Operations Forces in the world. And you can kind of do you can think about who he is later on, but he's an elderly gentleman. And he told me once, I asked him, I said, would you ever go back to the Pentagon if they offered you $1 million a year? He said, I'd cut my hands off. I'd cut my legs off. And I said, why? He said, well, I'd cut my hands off first, so I couldn't sign anything, any kind of contract. And he said, and then I would cut my legs off so I couldn't walk there. He said, I would never go back there. He said, that's the most evil place in the world. And, he was absolutely right about it. And his aide, who is my absolute best friend in the world, was a lieutenant colonel. And some of his earlier days in the Army was at the Pentagon as an officer, as a signal officer. And he told me, he said, never again, never again. So I don't know what goes on there. I don't want to know what goes on there. I'd rather stay clear of that place. But that tells you right there what our government is like. If you've ever driven by the Pentagon, which I have numerous times, I worked out of Belvoir a little bit. I worked out of Northern Virginia a little bit. And that kind of gives you a little bit of background too, as to what I did there as a not a GS employee, thank God, but a contractor in the intelligence service, and I could tell them to F off when I got ready to. I could quit, but unfortunately, I got fired because I stated some truth. Right, I woke up to the truth and I stated it, and I got removed. I got fired.
It's amazing how that happens to so many of us. It's like you tell the truth, and they're gonna do things like, I don't know, kick you off the ballot, they're illegally, and all that sort of thing. Character assassinate you, all that sort of thing. And we have that throughout our government. It's at every level right now, and you can see it. And the only way to stop this, honestly, is we've got to get good people running and replace them so that we can people will say about President Trump, well, he should have done this or that. Who's he going to choose from? He's surrounded by the swamp. I think he did a pretty darn good job, like, sorting through it. And I pray to God that some of them are already gone, that he went through and he started stomping on the cockroaches a little bit, because that's what really needs to happen.
I always said, if I had the money, if I was an investor worth hundreds of millions of dollars, let's say Warren Buffett, if I was Warren Buffett, let's just put it that way, I would go out into the communities of every state, and I would locate every honorably discharged or retired Special Forces Green Beret, such as Jason Ickes here. And I would groom them to run for office. Every single community and every single state. And I would place a Special Forces, a Green Beret, in office. And the reason I would do that is because, and Jason Ickes can go into this if he wanted to, but there, what is your mission statement as a Green Beret, right? You go in, you're an unconventional warfare expert. You are a guerrilla warfare expert. You can go in and as a diplomat, right? And you can build a government out of a country that does not have a government. Am I correct? I mean,
that's one. Yeah, of the 9 different mission sets. Yeah, unconventional warfare is one of them. Nation building or civil affairs is another. Right. So they did break that off as a very focused mission set separately, because it is a very burdensome and specific task-oriented separate organization, much like psychological warfare and psyopers, right?
Right. Yeah, and it by going into those communities and putting those Green Berets in there, what they're going to do, they're going to drain the swamp, right? They're going to take the bad. They're going to separate. I think they call it separating the chaff from the whatever. I don't even.
Wheat from the chaff.
From the chaff, right? That's what they're going to do. They're going to go in. Just we put people like Jason Ickes in that wants justice, that wants integrity, that wants honor brought back into our government.
Because there is none. Let's talk about this too. You were bringing up the fact that I think your son is going to be deployed, right?
He's actually redeploying back to the United States. So he's coming back. He's been over there for several months.
And the whole war thing that we've got going on here, our fake president Biden, who is not the rightful president of the United States, is Donald J. Trump, because they rigged the election and it's fraudulent, maladministration, whatever you want to call it. There's nothing about that should have stood, not any part of this. So, and he goes in and he bombs Syria on his fake inauguration day.
Right.
Should make everybody really, sober about that point. Is that, even especially people who say they're Democrats. I don't believe that there's Democrats or Republicans. I believe we're all Americans, and these parties need to be burnt to the ground and abolished, because they have absolutely violated the public trust and become nothing more than a special interest money fund and such, But it's the Democrats. Anybody who aligns with Democrat realize how quickly he jumped us into military conflict across the globe.
Right.
To what? To kill our American sons and daughters.
That's right.
Because they don't go in to win anything. The government, our government hasn't won anything.
Well, look at Nikki Haley. As soon as all of Gaza stuff, the situation started to escalate, the first thing she wanted to do was go bomb the oil fields in Iran.
Right.
And it's like, so you just want a war. You just say it. You just want a war. look, there's legitimate targets to be had. You can go after Hezbollah, Hamas, you can go after supply chains, you can go after all of Quds force operations outside of its continental area. You can even hit certain specified targets that are military targets that are aligned with supporting those missions, that are training those resistance forces in foreign countries. Those are all legitimate military targets. And there's no reason to be going after the economic infrastructure that if you go to conquer a country, you're going to you're going to have to rebuild it. Let's face it. So why eliminate that when the legitimate targets that should be gone after and neutralized, to state your actual case, which is we are not going to accept terrorism or your support for terrorist activities in our allies' countries, right? That's the message that should be out, not, hey, we're going to have a negative impact on the people. You want to win the hearts and minds, right? If you do go into a country and you go to take it over, you need those people, unless you're going to commit genocide, you need those people to rebuild their country. And if you go in and destroy all of the commercial infrastructure, how are you supposed to win? How are you supposed to convince those people you have their best interest at heart?
Right.
Well, I'm gonna interject some levity here, but you ever hear somebody being called a Nimrod? What a Nimrod, like an idiot. Yes. I find it really amusing that her name is Nimrata. It's like and I would keep saying it's a female form of Nimrod, which is even worse than calling her bird brain, right?
It is.
But really there you go. She's a Nimrod. Nimrata.
She is. She really is. But it's so true. It's so true. And here we go again, right? We're questioning everything and we're waking up to the truth, just like the beginning of your news network says. I mean, that should be every news network's introduction. Question everything.
We're trying to start a trend here,
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to get back into I know I kind of got off the beaten path there about OSINT and whatnot, and Syria and this, that, and other. But one of the things that I guess you Donna, you spoke about it earlier, was the dark web, and how the dark web can bring up things, right? You can have things in your possession that you don't realize may be classified information, right? Because there is classified documents that just roll. I mean, they just scroll across the board in some of these dark web sites. Not that I've ever laid eyes on those per se, but I can do the. But I've heard about them. I've heard people speak of them rolling across this dark web. One of the things that OSINT is, right? So what is it? We talked about that to begin with. We gave kind of a brief definition of what it was, but OSINT is everything you type in to search for. Donna, if you're looking into my background, if you want to know who I am, where I come from, all of my interests, you're going to type my name in. A few things are going to come up, a few Jason Ladds. There's not many, but there are some other Jason Ladds in this world, but I am the only Jason Ladd, the true Jason Ladd of the world. But the other ones are going to come in, and you're going to see one is a fighter pilot, Marine Corps fighter pilot.
I actually looked you up, and I did find that.
Yeah, did you see it? And he's a very renowned author in aviation manuals and whatnot. So, and then you go into you look a little bit deeper. I've tried to scrub the web of and knock me completely off, but unfortunately, once you're on, you're on. You can't. Unless you've got some government entity that can actually go in, or you're Elon Musk and you can pull it off of there. But you can reach in there and you can see, right? You can see that, okay, well, he was born and raised in Tennessee. He was born in 1977. These things, they're all open source information. Can you find the last four of my social security? Absolutely. If you dig dig hard enough, you're going to find the last four of it. You're going to be able to put into context, into a platform or a spreadsheet or however you want, all of my interests. You know, I'm a avid fly fisherman. I love the mountains and I love fly fishing for trout. If I ever disappear, and the FBI is watching, you can go to the mountains and search for me there. It's going to be hard to find me. You may find me, but that's where you'll find me. You'll find me in the mountains, right? So, and you'll probably run across me while I'm fly fishing. That's how I'll get busted, from the FBI or whoever. KGB, you know, they're not even in.
What's the difference?
Yeah, Homeland Security, you know. So that's where you'll find me, and you can get on the web and you can find me on the web anywhere, right? Like that. The social media platforms, and you can go all the way back into the early 2000s where there was MySpace, and you'll see that I was, you know, a fishing guide back in, I think 2006. Took people on bass fishing excursions when I was, I had just got into recruiting. So those things, you know, you can find all of those things. So is open source intel good? It is, and it can be, if you're researching, you know, like we talked about the other day,
Pattern
Jason.
of life.
Right. Pattern of life. Or if you're wanting to find out who your the Michigan precinct delegates are, right? We talked about that. You know, some people can't figure it out. You don't know where to go. You don't know where to look for them. It's like, how do I find this? Well,
they make it hard for people. It's quite hard to find information because there's all of these imposter sites that try to redirect you. It's just even like the Constitution. You can find all sorts of sites that have the Constitution, but it's not always the way that it should be, you know, and so they'll change it just to engineer or lead people astray.
We look at, you know, one of the things with America Project, if I may, talk about voting, you know, we've got a thing called Vote Your Vision. And there's a little offshoot of Vote Your Vision called One More Mission. And it's about veterans. It's one more mission, one more call. And it's reaching out to veterans and first responders to become poll watchers and poll workers. Now, the reason why we're reaching out to these veterans and these first responders are because they have integrity, they have honor, they want to serve another mission. They want to do something to serve their people, right? Their country. What can they do? Oh, well, I'm not going to go stand and sit next to a guy in a wheelchair and direct people to a poll. Well, why not? That's very important. The reason it's important is because you can use this open source intel, right, on the web to learn how to people watch, to read people, to read their mannerisms, right, their eye movements, their throat. Are they sweating? Are they flush? You know, are they pale? Do they look like maybe there's something wrong with them? Are they looking all over the room? Why are they doing that in a poll location? You know, what should make anyone nervous in one of those areas, right? Are they reaching in? They're doing paper ballots? Are they reaching in and getting other writing mechanisms, right? Are they going through several different IDs to get the right one as they're signing into the voting platform?
They actually do that there?
They do.
Okay.
They do. In Tennessee, they ask for your ID. Well, the smaller counties, Davidson County, I don't think they do. Shelby County, I don't think they do, which is Memphis. And you can imagine why, but I'm sure they don't, but a lot of smaller counties that actually have some integrity left in them, at their polling locations, they'll ask for your ID, and they'll look at you and they'll look at your ID and they'll look at you and they'll, you know, almost like you're going through customs, right? And they're going to make sure that is you. But if you got someone in there and they're looking around and they're digging through their pockets, and something's not right, and that poll watcher or worker should say something. Hey, what are you doing? You know, why are you acting kind of fishy? You know, not really ask them that, but kind of look at their mannerisms and be like, hey, can you step back to the side just a minute and kind of find out what's going on there? You know, if they've got 3, 4, 5 different driver's licenses, maybe you should ask some questions, right? Hey, what are you doing? All of them are from different states. You know, this guy needs to be investigated. Maybe you should raise the red flag at that point, right? And have him looked into. Write his name down. There's nothing wrong with writing his name down. Is there anything illegal about writing this guy's name down? Now go in to start using your OSINT tactics, right? Your frameworks, and one of those are you can go into this, right? This is email addresses, and I'm looking at it because there's no way I can memorize this many. There's hundreds of thousands of different sites that you can go to and type in. Let's just use this one, for instance, that I use quite often. It's called Mail Hunt.
What?
Mail Hunt.
Is that's on the regular? Do you know how to? You want to share your screen on that one?
I'm actually
put it in. I'll put it in.
Don't do it yet because it's a black site. You don't want to go to it.
Okay, then I'll just wait. We'll just talk about it.
Yeah, if you can hear it talking right now, it's a pirated app that you don't want to go to. So as we're speaking, here I am getting my my stuff run through. You can type this one in, and this one is safe. Skymem, it's SKYMEM.info. And you can find email addresses of companies and people. You can type these things in, it'll come up. Some of them will say, non-existence. Let's say this example here is enter a domain.
Sky what? SKY.
SKYMEM.
MEM.
Yes. MEM. Mike Echo Mike.info. INFO.
Not allowing me to do it.
Oh boy.
Your browser settings are probably turned up. You got safe search on or moderate?
I'm sure that this has got all kinds of safety stuff on it to eliminate problems that
Absolutely.
I could. Yeah. So I have kind of like beastly security.
Well, that's a good thing.
If you're doing this, if you're doing that kind of search, you probably want to have a separate machine that you don't use for your finances and things of that nature, or keep important records on, or your own photo albums and things that you only have stored in one location. If you're doing open source intelligence research, you should really have a separate device that you use because
that's what I have.
Yeah, as you wander through these different sites, you'll find that some of them are traps and they're laden with malware or other things. So it's important to be able to roll back that machine.
Yeah. Can you guys still see me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to share my screen on I've got to go back over here. This is a basic OSINT framework. You can go into this. It is I'm not sure who owns this site. I am going to, let's see here, present. I think that's how I can share my screen. Share screen. Boom, boom. OSINT framework. Share. Here we go. Can you guys see that?
I can put you in right now. Hang on. Okay. All right, there you go.
Okay. So if you take a look at all of these, this is your OSINT framework. This is a really handy little platform. It's OSINT, OSINT framework.com. It'll give you a lot of good stuff. Let's go to username. If we want to do a username search engine, we can click on this and it'll come up. All these little things here, all the way down through here. Be very careful, just like what Jix was saying. And I don't know if you refer to him as Jix. I call him Jix for Jay Ickes. He calls me Ladd. So, but all of these little things here, you want to have a different computer that you only do this research with. Specific sites, we can go here and it'll bring up another kind of a layout. Let's go to Amazon usernames, right? It pulls up this kind of stuff here. This will blow your mind. Now, these are all people that are purchasing on Amazon and what they're purchasing. So if I want to find out what you're purchasing on Amazon, I can go here to Amazon, to this username here, use the Boolean search, right, that we were talking about. And if you can see that, you can't see that because I've got it on this. Let me.
Well, the thing of it is how do you find like your precinct delegates? Because like for me, it's like I don't want to spend time like searching into people's personal information, but what do you do to find like the things that are pertinent to running the country?
Okay, so what you'd do is you'd come over here. Let's just say, for instance, you want, here's your dark web one. I'm going to close out of all of these here.
Okay, I'm going to go here and tell you, decide where you're going to go.
Yeah. So you want to stay away from this one here. It's the dark web, right? There's all your Tor search, your clients, general information. Stay away from that on your regular computer.
Okay, hang on. Jason, you're laughing at me, aren't you?
Well, no, I'm laughing because I'm thinking at one point in time, I went and looked for my precinct delegate, and I found there was one in my precinct listed. And when you become a precinct delegate, you have to file an affidavit of intent, and you have to put your information on there. You are now a public official. You are representing 125 constituents. And so they need to be able to reach you. And if new people move into the area, they need to know who you are. So this is supposed to be public information. You would think it would be easy to come by, right? It's like having to reach out to your county clerk, but it's not. It's buried.
All of it is buried. It's very hard to find. And but if you know where you're looking, like somebody who's an intelligence officer and or the spooks that are in the FBI, CIA, they know everything about you. There's nothing that's hidden anymore.
You have these, right? You have these little worker bees, right there, and you can look at you could put on a bee suit. Let's take, for instance, I like speaking in metaphors and examples, physical examples, but you could put on a bee suit. Let's take that, for instance, and you can go out to a beekeeper farm. And you can have them pull that stuff, pull out those trays that they have that, and look at all those little bitty bees. Every single one of them has a different task, right? Hundreds of thousands of those bees, and each one has a different task. Now, take that and video that, and then go into, let's say, a skiff that we talked about earlier. Go into a skiff, a very high level skiff. Let's go to Langley, for instance. And it's not in Langley, but we're using Langley as a term here. You go into there and you look in that skiff and you see all these little worker bees on computers, all these nerds that graduated from Harvard, Georgetown, all of these places, right? The Naval Intelligence Institutes, and they're in there just pecking away. They got 3 computer screens up in front of them, and they are just working their tail off. That's what's going on. That's what's going on in this intel world right now. They are pulling every single bit of data from every single person in the United States. One of the worst and best things to ever happen to the United States was after 2001, when they did the what was that? Was that Terrorism Act or the National
Patriot Act?
The Patriot Act.
Yeah, it's a terrorism act. That's exactly what it is. It's terrorism, terrorizing the United States, the people of the United States, whom in the state of Michigan, and who in the state of Michigan it was behind that Patriot Act with the Bushes. That would be Pete Hoekstra, who signed it twice.
Right.
You know, any act that Congress passes, you just put anti in the front of, and that better describes it.
Yeah, and
That's right.
I'm
Yes,
I'm gonna go back to this nonsense here, and I'm gonna, after I call this out, and you know what, I listen to this bullshit that's going through the Republican Party, and that's all it is. All right, I'm done. If anyone wanted to change it, it'd be fine. Hoekstra signs this thing twice, right?
Mhm.
And nobody's saying a thing. The only words I want to hear out of Pete Hoekstra's mouth right now is, "This is what I'm going to do to right the mistakes I made." That's it. That's it. I don't want to hear any more words out of his mouth, because until I hear those words, he needs to just zip it and stop being part of the problem.
That's right. That's right.
So there you go. I said it, right?
That's right.
That's right. How are you going to fix what you screwed up? Because anybody that did that was part of the attack on the privacy of Americans. And I don't want to hear, the United States was attacked. We were at threat. We didn't know what to do. Oh my gosh. No,
Yeah.
That's not an excuse.
It's not an excuse.
That abject failure, criminality, and bullshit, top to bottom.
We're way too advanced. We're way too advanced in civilization and technology, right? We can do things that just would blow the absolute common person's mind. Let's take back in 2001, for instance. Like, we're going back, 23 years to 2001. And where were you in 2001, Jason?
High school.
High school.
You're such a baby. Oh my God, I'm so old.
I know, and I look up to him. That's crazy. In 2001, I was stationed in Fort Campbell, and when the towers were hit, I didn't know at the time what was going on. I'd just gotten through with I think we'd done a 5-mile run that morning, and I went to Arby's, and Arby's has these phenomenal turnover things, right? And they were just so delicious. And that's where I was sitting in the drive-through across from the gate 4 at Fort Campbell, getting me an apple and cherry turnover after a 5-mile run, right? Why even run 5 miles if you're going to eat an apple and cherry turnover?
Well, that's where you earn it. You earn the ability to
yeah. So I'm sitting there, and I get this call to go back. My platoon sergeant calls. He's like, "Get back on post now. The U.S. is under attack." Well, I laughed, and I'm, "Yeah, okay, whatever, and go back in. And sure enough, this was the truth. But making a long story short, let's break it down to 2001, when we were in the mountains of Afghanistan. 2002, 5th Special Forces Group and the Special Activities Division of the Central Idiot Association was there in Afghanistan, right? And what they had was they were bringing in bombs, and they were using this device called the SOFLAM. Did you ever train on the SOFLAM? The Special Operations Forces Laser Acquisition Device, or whatever it's called.
Sounds cool, though.
It sounds cool, right? And it's this big old pair of binocular looking things. And basically what they do is they set up and they can laze a target. And these jets or B-52s or whatever you want to say, these flying objects, right, that have bombs on them, can see that laser, and they can pinpoint into that GPS or these drones, and they can drop those bombs. It's a laser guided bomb, and they're lasing these targets in 2001 to specifically drop that bomb inside the coffee cup, right in there. We're going to drop the head of that bomb inside this mug, and they do in 2001. Well,
That's
then we
amazing.
thought that the coolest thing ever, right, was that device. And I'm looking up now going, man, I hope the drone didn't come over and drop one in this coffee cup. But they did that at that time. They had that kind of technology. That's way behind the power curve now. We don't even I don't even think we use that even anymore. I think
right. And to think about that, and letting a plane run into the tower 9/11, and they shut everything down. I mean, come on, people. A jet could have been there in less than 10 minutes, you could add a jet on it if you saw it going in the wrong direction. That second jet should never even gotten close to this. There's so much crap going into this that it's absurd.
And how are red flags not raised right over? I mean, this just south of where you are, right? Just south of where you are right now, Donna, is by about, I don't know, 2.5, 3 hours maybe, is where those people trained to fly those airplanes. Right there on the West Coast, right, of Florida. And I'm not going to give your location, but
yeah, because
right
I'm in a secret, non-disclosed location.
Right. So, right, they had those training facilities right there as private pilots. And those goobs, I would call them ashes now, that did the training because they're dead in the hammer, but they trained right there in Venice, Florida, at Venice Airport. And it's like, oh, wow, okay. What idiot sat in that office and trained these guys and said they are good people?
Well, there was reports that they actually reported them for only wanting to train one. They only wanted to learn how to take off. They didn't care about
landing. They're fine. Yeah. What do you mean you only want to know how to take off? You got to land the thing too, right? I mean,
that was actually, there was an intel report on that.
Yeah. Yes. You can. Oh, here comes some open source intel, right? Let's look it up. So these clowns, right? I mean, I've got my private pilot's license. It has long since elapsed, right? I haven't flown since 2009. So I couldn't even, if I had to, I would.
I started, but I stopped when I ran for governor because I figured that's where they were going to drop me out of the sky. And right. What is it? Is that like 7 out of 8 plane crashes are a quick way to get rid of somebody.
Yeah. And maintenance issue.
Yeah. Because
maintenance issue. Yeah. Right. Like cutting bolts and crap. I mean, no.
Yeah. All you got to do is, you put some kind of something to freeze up the carburetor on a small, Cessna 172 or Cessna 182 as a private single engine pilot, right? Just freeze up the carburation on it, I don't know. Maybe put a can of Freon next to it so it explodes, and all of a sudden it freezes up everything. Now you're going down, right? If you don't know how to glide that thing, you're going to crash it.
Well, the funny thing is that when you do take lessons for flight, you realize how far a plane can glide, and it's like they can glide like 1,000 feet per minute. That's all the altitude you'll lose in most of them. So you just got to be looking for a cornfield or something that doesn't have any wires in it that you can.
Right. Most people panic and they push the controls forward and just nosedive it. Well, you don't have any kind of lift or power to pull you back up. You're going down.
I got a funny story. I actually did that one time when we were practicing stalls, and the flight instructor says, of course, because you fly, so you understand that. He says, okay. He said, give it full throttle and nose down just a little bit so you can come out of it, right? And so, of course, this was like the first time I practiced stall. So I was like, okay, boom, and I hit them both forward, and we just went me like this. And instructor goes, well, that was a lot of fun. Like, I don't think anybody else was saying that right then and there.
I didn't care much for stalls. I didn't like that the stall buzzer going off, and especially if you would do a power on stall and you'd just climb that thing up and it would beep, and then it would just nose over. I mean, it would just fall, and it's like, I know what to do. I'm good. I don't need to practice it. I know what's going to happen. It's good. But
I actually thought it was landing. I thought it was kind of fun.
Yeah.
But there is a special kind of crazy happening here.
It is. It really is. So, but anyway, so you asked a question, huh?
Yeah, precinct delegates.
Precinct delegates.
How do we find it? How do we find it?
I think we can be on here for hours, guys. I'm telling you what.
We got into flying airplanes now.
Back to center, right?
So finding precinct delegates. I go back to the screen that I was sharing earlier with the OSINT framework, and I pulled something up here for you on this. In public records. I'm gonna close back out. If I can share my screen one more time.
Tell me when.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
All right. And if you look here, I use OSINT. I use OSINT framework. It's a free framework, and it basically keeps you on track. If you have questions, there's no subscription to it to buy in, but you can go in and type this in and say, okay, OSINT framework, what am I looking for? Well, I want to find my precinct delegates for my state, but I don't know how. I don't know where to look. I don't even know where to start. So you can go into this and you can just say public records, right? That's where we want to go to.
Okay.
And you pull up, and it's going to give you a list of things that you can go to, right? Let's just say public records, and we look down here under those public records. We got public records, the World Bank Open Data Catalog. Well, have you ever heard of that? No.
Nope.
You can click on that, and you can go to that. Let's go to Gov Data. Well, this is Open Data Portal. Now, this is some German stuff. You don't want to fool with that, but Gov Data, G-O-V, you can go to any kind of Gov Data site. Let's go to Government Records, open that up. Government Data, these are just examples, that you can use here. I'm going to close that back out and go to Court Criminal Records. Let's say we've got precinct delegate we want to do some opposition research on, right? We think that person is a Willis, aka Fannie Willis, and we want to research this person and see what they have on them. We can go in here and write this stuff down and see this. We can actually use it, right? If we want to go to mugshots.com, we can come here. Can you see me clicking on that?
I can see you. You got me nervous here, but yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm not gonna go on to any of these that'll pop up, but we could go to most wanted criminal pages. We could go to crime reports. These are all open source data, sites that we can go to and use. And we don't necessarily have to click on them. We can use our own things, right? Our own computer that is off away from our stuff that has our name on it. Let's say we went to the pawn shop. One of the best research things that you can do in open source intelligence is go to the pawn shop. Go straight to the pawn shop and buy a computer. Buy that computer from that pawn shop and pay, and pay cash for it.
Cash, yep. The other thing is avoid, if you're even better, is to go to the yard sales and find somebody who's getting rid of one, because that's also, then for a fact that there's potentially no funny business going on there. Because it was someone's personal. There may be stuff that needs to be wiped and obviously cleaned from it. They may not include the hard drive, but typically have no idea not to do that. But the yard sales are another great place.
Absolutely, and that is absolutely the truth, because at this point, your digital footprint is non-existent. You don't put in any kind of information about you or your whereabouts. Before you get that computer to your house, you'll go by a place such as McDonald's. Now, this is tradecraft that is also open source information, right? This is your Intel tradecraft that a lot of intelligence experts go many weeks to school to learn how to do. That the typical American citizen can learn on their own. So go to McDonald's, right? You're going to have an IP address that is going to be traceable, but it's only going to be traceable if you use it at that one place every single time. If you use that exact same Wi-Fi platform, you go to McDonald's, excuse me, You go to McDonald's every single time. Now you're starting to get that. You're getting this footprint. Now they can really pinpoint you into. They can start using these IP addresses, and they start putting the times on them, and they can find you. So you don't want to be that guy. Maybe you want to go to Starbucks, right, and not drink their coffee. Maybe you want to go to to McDonald's and use use their free Wi-Fi, or maybe you want to go somewhere else where there's free Wi-Fi, and use these platforms every time. But then reset your computer completely. Reset the entire thing. Do a complete hard drive wipe on this thing, and then restart it. That computer, you don't own that computer. They don't know who you are using it. And you want to use these nice little handy dandy things right here. Excuse me, I've got a cough this morning. These go over your computer screens, and you can get them anywhere.
Let's see, pull it up to the camera so I can see them. What are they?
Excuse me for the.
That's all right.
Here we go.
There you go.
So that's a person. That's not DIA. That's a person. Dia and you. You know. So I don't know if you know Dia or not, but these little things right here, these are sliding little mechanisms that go over, and they fit right over here, and you can slide them back and forth. It's essential to use that. It's essential to always keep your microphone turned off on your computer. This is open source intelligence. This is open source tradecraft at its best. These little things like this will make you or break you. And you always want to be one step ahead, right? Question everything. Am I, even yourself, in the open source platform? Reaching out and looking for your precinct delegates. Why am I reaching out to find these precinct delegates? Do I want to know? Do I want someone else to know if I'm looking for these precinct delegates, right? Because what if something happens to them? Right. And you're searching these precinct delegates over and over and over and over and over. Now you've got a digital footprint of yourself researching this one precinct delegate over and over and over again. Right. You don't want to do that. Right. That puts you into that mindset or that framework of that FBI suspicions. Right. They find you. Oh, what is going on with this guy? Well, if you've got that dirty computer from, John Smith or Jane Smith's house down here that was doing a yard sale 150 miles away from your location. I'm just using those numbers as a reference. You want to go ways away to a yard sale to find that computer, or a ways away, maybe out of state, to find the pawn shop to find that computer to pay cash for. But you want to do those things. Those are key open source information, tactics, and techniques that you can every day use. Some people may call them paranoid tactics. These are not paranoid tactics.
Every person I know that's in cybersecurity and or this or that are the most paranoid people on the planet. But I don't think that it's unjust.
Probably a reason.
There's a reason for it.
There's a reason for it.
No, it's fine. It's fine. You'll see people there'll be little grandmas going, no, it's fine. It's fine. I'm just on Facebook here a minute. And the next thing you know, they're sending, a packet across the web. They don't even realize they just sent an identity packet across the web that can be picked up by somebody who has, I don't know, say an IQ of approaching 80,
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with you're absolutely just protecting yourself, right? Would you leave your door unlocked at night when you go to bed? No.
Have a big dog.
Well, most people don't understand the threat that really is posed there, and that's just because of a lack of understanding. We've advanced in technology so rapidly that we have generational gaps in understanding of our personal threat level and capabilities. It's just, this is I just saw an article about the White House saying how bad our cybersecurity and credentials are at risk. and how, let's just face it, the whole world has access to now our DNA, our biometrics, our passwords, everything, all that information. You know, the whole COVID period basically dumped all that stuff out there, and China hoovered it all up. And the Biden administration is just now saying, well, we need to secure this. Like, hey, thanks for coming at the last minute after
because they were part of it.
Yeah. So, well, create a problem and bring in the solution, right? So, have the solution hot on deck. But yeah, it's as far as being able to research and find out what's going on in your backyard, it's imperative that people start to learn these skills, because we're rapidly getting caught in this trap of not understanding our situational environment. And that's really what's allowed. In all honesty, the United States has been stunned, right? When you got caught off guard because we were not prepared. Everything that's happened since 2020 is because average Americans have never expected the ability for a foreign threat to be so prevalent internally in our country. This is the result of people not understanding that foreign internal threat and how prevalent it has actually become. And that's even more exacerbated with this open borders policy that makes absolutely no sense. And you can go and if you talk to people who consider themselves the level-headed ones that aren't wrapped up in conspiracies, they're like, oh yeah, you know, it's just the wealthy businesses, they need workers, they need people, and no one wants to work. And it's like, well, you give out social welfare benefits and people don't need to work. So
they create a problem.
How does that work? And then you're giving, by the way, they're giving these illegals cash cards. What makes you think they're going to work? You're giving them the money to survive off of. They don't need to find jobs if you're just going to recharge a card with $2,200 or whatever it is, 10 grand on it. Like, you think that's a one-time thing? They've got, 3 months, and you're not going to all of a sudden just not recharge it anymore, and they're going to have a job and everything's going to be hunky-dory. How many of these people you've seen interviewed at the border don't speak English? What jobs are waiting for them?
Right.
And these are clean-cut military-age males. Let's face it, there's not a lot of those types of jobs available in this country.
Right.
unless you're talking about, our own military not being at strength. And I'm sorry, but I really don't want. I saw what happened when we were recruiting in Iraq and Afghanistan and the green on blue. We're about to open up that same can of worms right here, and our own military leaders are saying, yeah, let's recruit all of these people that are coming across the border.
Right.
Well, look at what happened in Benghazi. I mean, you want to talk about the pinnacle of stupid. It's like, let's just go ahead and put an ad in the newspaper for security and to staff our little triage embassy in a strip mall. Right. And then I'm sure that's going to end well.
Right. In 2000,
maybe it's me. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking too much today.
No, not at all. I don't think so at all. You question everything, right? So question everything. So in 2006, I can't remember the dates now, and it doesn't matter. But in that time frame, the USAREC, the U.S. Army Recruiting Command, created this initiative of foreign-speaking recruits. They wanted these recruits to come in, and they were people who spoke Urdu, people who spoke Dari, people who spoke, the Egyptian Arabic languages, and they started bringing these. Tagalog was one of them, and Mandarin, and they were paying $40,000 enlistment bonuses, and you did not have to be a U.S. citizen. They would help you get your I-95 card and recruit you as long as you could pass the English and the whatever the the language that you were speaking was. And then they would put you in for $40,000.
Going right straight to with Mandarin, the CCP. And it's like they'll be like having a powwow over there in China, going, "Hey, we need a few agents in here. Send them right over, because these idiot Americans are going to pay big dollars for us to actually infiltrate their government."
Now, I'm gonna bring something else on you that this may bring some pain on me as well. But in 2009, I was medically retired from the Army because the enemy liked to get at me sometimes. So and sometimes I would be in the enemy's way and would intercept one of their projectiles. But the Army decided that I needed to be medically retired. Okay, great. I'm going to retire, but I'm going to go into another job set and I'm going to apply for it. And I got recruited by the Department of Energy as a nuclear courier. So I go to the Department of Energy's, what is that, Albuquerque, New Mexico, and to go out to do my interview. And it was great. It was this big thing. They put you up in a hotel, and I get out there, and they said, Now, this was 2009. Yeah, the end of 2009. And I get out there and I go through the psychological, the test, and I pass it with flying colors. And they asked me a couple of questions, and I'm condensing this story into a little small thing. One of the questions he asked me was, "Have you ever been given a mind-altering substance?" And I'm like LSD, cocaine? He's like, no, like a psychological drug. And I'm like, no, I've never been administered any kind of psychological drug. Okay, well, it says here that you were administered this mind-altering substance called sertraline. And I'm like, no, I've never been administered anything. I believe I would remember that. And he said, but it was given to you in 2004. So I'm doing the math, right? I'm thinking 2004, this is 2009, it's 5 years ago. What does it really matter that I was even given a substance that long ago that I don't even remember that I was even given and didn't take to begin with? So I appealed this decision. The appeal was knocked out. I was basically fired from Department of Energy and not accepted and not federally agent credentialed because the Army decided to give me something that I don't even remember being given in 2004 while I was in Iraq. So I started researching this, and there were numerous individuals that held high-level clearances that were that got out of the Army or Navy, Air Force, numerous ones that were not given the Department of Energy Q clearance, or that were not accepted into the energy program, but were physically and mentally fit. The ones that were accepted into the program were people of, let's just say, they not to say anything bad about a sheriff's deputy, right? But that's the only thing they've ever done their entire life is be a sheriff's deputy. And they're a little bit on the overweight side, and they like coffee and donuts, and they like fried foods. Well, those were the people that were getting accepted into the nuclear courier program. There was a large lawsuit a few years later into this and against that psychiatrist that were cutting these guys. Why was he cutting special operations guys that were physically and mentally fit to become nuclear couriers? There's no explanation in the world why this was happening, but it was happening. And they were just placing people that could be manipulated very easily into the courier position. Well,
it happens all over the place, though. Just watch the politicians that get in office. They're not like what I would say like the sharpest tool in the shed.
Right.
But they're easy to compromise. They're easy to manipulate.
They're easy to compromise, easy to manipulate. Those are two very, very well used words in this government, right? And I think that's why I look at it as what we talked about earlier. Like if I was Warren Buffett, right, I would go out and I would go to every city, every county, and I would recruit nothing but, I wouldn't recruit Navy SEALs, right? Why wouldn't I recruit Navy SEAls? Well, let me tell you why. Navy SEALs are easily compromised. Why are they easily compromised? Well,
Savages, that's why.
they are direct action special operators, right? That is what they are. What is the main mission of the SEAL teams? And who do they support? Well, they support the Central Idiot Association, right? That's who they support. They don't support much of anything else. Now, I've got some Navy SEAL friends that I'll probably lose after saying this, and I don't mind because they're not that close. But that's what they are. They are direct action initiative guys. They're not diplomatic dudes. That's not what they're out there for. They're not like your Green Berets who have that diplomatic specialty to them. They can do everything that a Navy SEAL can and more, right? That's what a Green Beret is. That's why I would go out and I would recruit these Green Berets, because they are professional. They're quiet professionals, as their motto goes, but they are very diplomatic in what they do. They're not worried about, do I look like an absolute beast? Do I have a six pack and a barrel chest that, is 3 foot wide, and can I fight a bear? No. They can blend in with the professional world, with the diplomatic world, with the the corporate world. They can blend in. You don't know who the Green Berets are. You can just look at Jason Ickes there. Do you know he's a Green Beret? He's very intelligent. He's very diplomatic, right? So it doesn't matter what you look at him and say, well, this guy is a politician. This guy's a banker. This guy is a genius, right? This guy is a professional, and this is who I want leading my city, county, or state. So these are the things that I would look for, and this is how I would build this network, because what would happen is they're not compromised. They're not people that are easily compromised. They're not people who are easily manipulated, and they have been through numerous schools, and they have a backbone. They have a very strong backbone, and you're not going to tell them that to do anything and them just, oh yeah, sure, I'll do that. I'll make this law, or I'll sponsor this bill. No, they're going to get very, very detailed. They're going to start bringing people in. They're going to bring in the experts to overlook this sponsored bill or this co-sponsored bill. That's why we want Green Berets in office, because they're going to weed out the weak. That's just what they do. They weed the weak out. Am I right? Am I right, Jason? They do. I went through the Special Forces Assessment and Selection Program. That was one of the first things they told us was, right, we're going to weed the weak out, and you're going to be it, right? And it's like, I'm not going to be that guy. No, I'm not quitting. And they don't quit. The ones that get that don't quit. So that's why we need Green Berets in there. That's exactly why we need them in there. Not because they look cool in this beret on this wool beret on their head and there's these big bearded operators, overseas. No, not at all. It's because of what's up in here and what's in here. They know what they're fighting for. They're not compromised. They're not compromisable, and they're not manipulated. So that's what we got to get in office. That was what we need to focus on in every single state. That's what we need to focus on in every single county, every single city. We need county commissioners that are Green Berets. We need senators. We need state reps. We need congressmen. Hell, we need a president that's a Green Beret, right? Donald Trump. Okay, great. Good. Wonderful. Donald Trump's not a Green Beret. Far from it. So we need that. We need those people in office, and that's one of the things. We get into this open source intel. How do we find them? How do we find them, and how do we reach out to them, and how do we present to them? You need to run for office. Well,
And I think what we need to do too is we need to get in there, and we should be doing this kind of a research on all people that are running for office for whatever, the connections. The things that I see is when I see connections, it's more important for me to see the connections and who they're connected to and what they've been involved in than just about anything, because that tells you everything you need to know right there. And yeah.
Well, you got to be careful on that too. When we get to a certain level of connections, there's depth in connections too. Surface level connections are sometimes necessary for, again, talking to
That is true. Because I talk to everybody, so and everybody's complaining. You talk to this person, you're the enemy, and I'm like, no, I talk to everybody. I'm talking to you right now, and you're under question too.
Right. So there's an acceptable level of those surface level connections. Being able to navigate and negotiate the political terrain requires you to be able to have that. Now, if somebody only has connections that are in a very specific information silo, that tells you right there their ideological preference, and that they're adverse to being open to other dialogue. And that's it's not necessarily a terrible thing, but it just helps you understand their environment that they're preferenced in. And I don't think we have to go too far down that rabbit hole. But I also want to say thanks, Ladd, for the glowing review, and Donna. We, as far as finding people, look, there's 200. Well, there's a total of 400,000 delegate slots. There's people constantly getting burned out. Karen, the Riveter, even mentioned that she came in late. You can get elevated to a delegate position at county convention. There's always vacancies, and the thing is, we're not going to be able to fill those with all veterans or all Green Berets. Definitely not. There's very few Green Berets out there. As a matter of fact, the number of positions that we have across the government is somewhere on the order of 2 million, and so the number of positions we'll be able to fill with people who have a wealth of experience and dedication and love for this country is it's overburdening. We need people who are dedicated to their communities, that want to see them made whole. In our government, we typically we allow our taxes to grow high and run amok, and we basically redistribute the wealth. We turn into this whole Robin Hood-esque this motive amongst the Democrat community, say, oh, we're Robin Hood by adding the taxes we're taking from the rich. But the reality is the rich have a million ways to skirt taxes, and the middle and lower classes don't. And so anytime you have people promoting increases in taxes, you have to realize that there's unintended second and third order effects and consequences to those. And most people can't see or think that far ahead. They can only see what they're given or presented. Most people are only worried about their next 24, 72 hours and maybe the next vacation they're going to have. They're trying to survive. And that means that the shepherds, the good shepherds, the people who need to lead the people in these positions of power throughout the country, they have to be good shepherds that are willing to take on the burden of looking that far ahead and knowing the consequences of these bills, these actions, these increases in taxes, and also how do we negate that, but how do we also promote and build our infrastructure, and also actually have national security, actually have local security. Look, I'm not a huge militia advocate, but I understand it. I certainly agree with it. I think that we need to have the ability to defend ourselves. And I believe that everyone that's out there learning how to shoot a firearm and have a group of people is completely entitled to do that. And they need to be able to do that, because at the end of the day, if the power grid were to go out, or if a storm or a hurricane or heaven forbid, the Yellowstone super volcano erupts. Like, if everything were to go to complete chaos, people need to have certain skills, and it's important to be able to allow people to build those skills and to have those coalitions. So there's a lot of push on one side of the aisle to remove all people that have those skills from the pool, so to speak, and that is detrimental to the cohesion, especially of our republic, because that is the fundamental block that allows us to know and feel safe and secure in our own local home and political environment and terrain. We need to recruit people who understand that, but also are willing to bear the burden of being a good shepherd, looking forward, taking on the slings and arrows that the left's going to attack. Because let's face it, they are all going to be getting financial benefits and windfalls from
You bet
pushing
they
their
are.
initiative. The other side, the good shepherd side, doesn't have that. There is no real advantage other than not being ruled by evil people. That is the only benefit you have from being a good shepherd that runs for office, that actually leads their community, their flock. You have to understand, if you don't do it, if we don't have good people step up, the evil people or the corruptible people are going to win every single time. And we will be stuck in this perpetual cycle of quid pro quo Joe, Beijing Bidens that are elevated through society, and they're only doing it for their own personal egos, financial benefit, and we have to beat them. And the only way we beat them is by realizing that's our burden.
It's our responsibility and it's our duty. And so like it's like I have the very cynical view of that any and all organizations can and at one point in time will be infiltrated, no matter what they are. And so you've got to be very careful not to go with the labels, but to really look into individual people. And in our, if we're going to be running our governments, if it's self-governance, then everybody has to get in the game on this and take part in running, in doing something. I mean, get a friend that's a Green Beret and learn the tactics, learn the intelligence tactics. Take it upon yourself to educate yourself. And now, you know where to go. I mean, we know where to go. We can go and find people to help us know how to run for office or to carry out the office, and start with the founding documents. Have you read the Constitution? Do you realize that a well-regulated militia is necessary? And so, and it's my opinion, because that was based on Switzerland, what Switzerland did. Switzerland armed all their citizens, and you were supposed to keep a record of your training. This wasn't just like hand out, guns like Pez, like a Pez dispenser. It was like you had to actually go and train for it. And if you didn't, you paid a tax for failing to uphold your duty. Now, I kind of like that idea. It's like everybody has a responsibility, and tax them for the part that you put on other people, and you refuse to take ownership. You want to sit home and be lazy? You want to sit home and be a coward? Then go right ahead. But somebody else is going to get compensated for what you've refused to do yourself. And I think that's something that, we can look at, because we were patterned, that militia was patterned after what went on in Switzerland. I think it's an extraordinary thing. And they don't have the crimes there. We have got to be an armed population. And when they talk about gun violence, I've never seen a gun shoot anyone. Lay the gun on a table and leave it there. You could leave it there for 1,000 years. That gun isn't going to shoot anybody. It's crazy, deranged people that are actually creating the violence. So why do they call it gun violence? Why don't we call it crazy, deranged people violence, and go after the problem, which are the criminals that are committing the crimes? So it's a big distraction. I'm sorry. To get off on that, but I also think, okay, what we should do is,
Yeah.
you know, it's like we really want to see things change quickly. Why don't we just deputize anyone that wants to enforce and uphold the law? But then they're also subject to the oath that they take. And then you have to have the structure responsible. You have to have a structure, and it has to be held responsible for what they do, because if we do not have a structure, it's just chaos, and then the criminals take over, which is what we have, you know.
Well, yeah, and there's also the possibility too that if you organize too well, that then you have the Caesar situation, right? Where Caesar came back and took over the capital. So, you know,
But
crossing
you
the
do it on a
Rubicon.
local level. I mean, you have to decentralize this, and it's got to be a decentralized local effort instead of, you know, we've been taught to think as a centralized process and centralize the structure. No, you got to decentralize it, but there's got to be a structure there that holds people accountable. I mean, if you're going to deputize an entire state, let the counties, let all the sheriffs deputize the population, and you know, because we're not even supposed to have a standing army for more than 2 years. It's like none of this, and they federalized the National Guard now, so none of this is worth a crap. The only standing military is the Navy, and that was to protect our borders, and they failed abysmally on that. And so it's like the whole thing has to be reevaluated, restructured, put into a better process, and the government given back to the people. But then the people have to be held responsible. Okay, you want to sit on your behind at home? That's fine. We're not going to pay you to do it. You can sit there all you want. But I don't see a reason for anybody else that's been out there busting tail for years to pay high taxes so you can sit on your tail and play video games or whatever it is. You know, it's like I found out of a new giveaway thing in the last couple of years. It's called Sarah. And because I own some income property, which is a whole nother story on itself. I wish I could write the letters and write stories of the nonsense you see as a landlord. And I probably will someday, is write all this nonsense down, because it's actually pretty funny. A lot of it's funny, really. But people were starting to come in after this and say, "Oh, I'm a Sarah recipient." The hell's a Sarah recipient? Well, I went down and I talked to somebody in this department or that department and said, "I'm having a hard time paying my rent." So they just came in and paid it. There was no qualifications, nothing. I'm like, are you serious? Just because I don't want to pay it, you know? And it is the craziest thing you have ever seen in your life. And you want to talk about deranged, get a few tenants that have been BLM trained. I have a couple of them right now. And it's like you want to talk about crazy deranged monkeys. That's the category right there. They will literally follow you off the property as you're trying to fix the things that they broke because they're idiots. And, you know, follow you off the property and stalk your cars and stalk people. It doesn't work too well with me because
I gotta drop off.
They just piss me off, but it's like it's happening. But thanks for being on today, Jason, and we'll see you next week, because we could really go around on this for a while. But I want to see if we can come back on and bring on lists of like the precinct delegates or the people that can enable the voter to actually look into things. Absolutely. And help people understand what it is to actually research. You know, you do intelligence, I research, I do hack research. You know, I don't have all the stuff that you do, but you know, I can do a pretty good job at it. And if I don't, my friends know how to do it, you know. But I think we should really enable people and say, hey, you know what? Let's look down into this little rabbit hole a little bit and find out what else we can find about people that we suspect are, oh, I don't know, let's go into child trafficking, because that's an issue I'm real interested in, because the only reason why they are not solving these problems like child trafficking is because they're in on it. Mm-hmm. And it's the law enforcement, and it's not every one of them. It's not everyone in each of these organizations. I want to be clear about that. There are some really good people in organizations that get in to help, but there's some really bad people in it that are stopping it. And when it goes back to the BLM nonsense, the burn, loot, and murder corporation that have sucked in stupid people to think that this is a social issue. This was an issue that weeded out stupid people. That's exactly what it was, because of the corporation. And how many $1 million did that corporation take in? And they're paid disruptors. They should have been held responsible for the $2 billion of damage that these criminal idiots committed across the United States. Sure. If I had any employees, which they're employees, they're agents and employees, I would have been held responsible for that kind of damage in the companies we own. Not them, because they got everybody believing that they really care about Black Lives Matter. They don't. They burnt the black neighborhoods and the minority neighborhoods to the ground. Right. They weren't coming into, I'm telling you what, they didn't come into our neighborhood, because I'm going to tell you what, I've got 3 cops in my neighborhood and a detective, and we had a perimeter set up there. I'm going to tell you what, it was not going to go well for anyone. And when you go back to looking at protecting your property, you have the right to protect your property. It's a right that is guaranteed by the Constitution, and I don't care what anybody says. You know,
that's right. It falls under the doctrines.
What's that?
The castle doctrine, right? You start looking into the certain states will have the castle doctrine, you know, and it's anything outside that you own outside your castle, right, is yours, and you have the right to protect it. If they step onto your land and they threaten you with and you're scared for your life, your limbs, your eyesight, right? You can defend against that. And if that means taking their life, well, so be it. You know, it's just
chosen poorly.
Right. So yeah, we've got a lot of things to look at. We've got a lot of things to talk about, you know, and I'll be glad to be back on your show and discuss, you know, even more in detail.
Now, I don't really want to get into like looking into people's personal information, because I don't want to be like the government. I think that's a despicable, that really is a despicable thing. And so, but what I'd like to do is I'd like to look into qualifiers for running for office, because running for governor, I'm going to tell you what, there's no qualifications for that whatsoever. And that's why we get people that run that are absolutely tied in with these criminal entities, because there's no background checks. There's no competency tests. There's no test to know what anybody knows. There's no vetting. It ends up being a tiger beat. You know, who's the greatest candidate, or who do I like how they dress, or that sort of thing. It's like, I heard people say, I'm voting for Tudor Dixon because she's hot, and that sort of thing. And I'm like, I think you didn't pass the test to have enough brains to vote right there. You know, so you want somebody to manage your asset of the state of Michigan that would be like, say, a Taylor Swift, somebody who you want to look at. I can't even understand this, you know. I want some battle hard grandma or grandpa out there that's chewing tobacco, wearing cowboy boots, and is ready to haul tail on anybody that steps out of line. You know, I don't want a fluffy duck. I want somebody who's Green Beret material, like you said, somebody who's actually going to do the friggin' job.
Right. Absolutely. That's what it's going to take. That is absolutely what it's going to take. It's going to take people that have values, that earn those values, you know, and fought for them.
I don't even want somebody that I like necessarily. It's like, I don't even care if I like him or not. You know, and you hear the ridiculous thing coming up. Well, I don't like President Trump's mean tweets. Well, I personally thought they were hilarious. I loved everything coming, because he said what most of us were thinking, and he didn't sugarcoat it, and he made it offensive as hell to make everybody react. And it's like, well, that's great. Just keep going, President Trump, because you are amazing. And, you know, and just get the job done. You know, it would be real nice to have, I don't know. I think that the way that Americans are valuing things, or that are, you know, that are evaluating things, is absolutely absurd right now. It's like, get the toughest person in there. Let's clean house. Let's send them all to Gitmo. They can make the appointment with God down there if they've committed treason and be done with this nonsense, so that the rest of us who actually care about life, can get on with our lives. So,
Right. Well, let's do it. Let's schedule something else, and let's sit down and shoot some more information out there. I'll be glad to talk about this and see what we can get done about these qualifications, and searching for qualifications, and searching not only for that, but lawmakers and legislators who are interested in creating qualifications, right?
I'd like to see how certain entities that were involved in paying off Act Blue and some of these agencies that are money laundering, because I found some of it. It's not too hard to find some of it, but I found people have like 6 aliases. I found somebody that's committed a 14-year felony that has not been prosecuted yet, but right. I've got that little feather in the back of my hat right here. And if that person, sticks their nose up, they're going to get a good snap across the nose like a dog that's peed on your floor. Right. And so
whack-a-mole.
You're going to play whack-a-mole with them. It's but then it's probably going to happen anyway, because I have put it forward and such, but it needs to happen. When we know of these things that have happened, they have to be prosecuted. And right now, I did some removal of this individual who could not be in a position of power, and but went in with a private investigator to look at what they actually did. And some of their one-day businesses, some of their, like selling a house that wasn't theirs or trying to, and trucking companies and insurance companies and bakeries and childcare and adult foster care and all those sorts of things that should make everybody raise an eyebrow. Kind of a crazy thing. But yeah, so that would be great. Well, we always end the show here with a prayer, because we really do need God's guidance in what we're doing. And I think that sometimes, some people can fight, and then there's some of us that are deranged enough that we love to fight, that it's something that it's like, and I don't know why we're wired this way, but I know that there are a few of us deranged monkeys out there that actually love the fight, because we just want to see things right, and we hate evil. I mean, that's my MO. I hate evil. I absolutely hate it. And it absolutely is, it'll send me from 0 to 60 in the remove it, category.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think you're kind of cut from the same cloth. I know Jason is. And
yes,
so, and I think there's a lot of people out there that feel the same way. And I want to encourage everyone to know that there is a lot of evil out there. But guess what? There's nothing new under the sun. This has been going on for a very, very, very long time. And we shouldn't be demoralized or upset about this or anything. The only thing that's changed is our awareness of this. And I remember being younger, a young person, and believing that these things were good, and really wanting to see things, work good. And you see things that are wrong, and you're like, you know what, this looks like a good thing. And I want to, make sure that this issue or that issue is addressed, only to find out years later that they were pulling the wool over everybody's eyes and using it for money laundering. Let's say, I don't know, let's just bring out the Red Cross. I hope they sue me, because there's enough evidence there. Or the UN, and how many rapes have happened. 60,000 of them documented. How many more are not talked about? CPS, Child Protective Services, and Health and Human Services. 850,000 children missing. If you think they're protecting kids, they're trafficking them. And the same thing with Catholic services, Lutheran services, all of these entities that are getting paid to move kids around. They come and they pick them up, they drop them off. They're going into Michigan. Michigan's a border state. You cannot trust these organizations. I had my credit cards hacked from WinRed, and donations between $500 and $2,000 going into candidates that I didn't even know within the last month. If you think that you can trust your donations to any of these campaigns or any of these fundraisers, you're fooling yourself. This is part of it. They split things up. They go to other candidates. They don't stay where you want them to stay unless you know the candidate personally. And I mean, know them real good. It's not like you sat in one of their meetings and say, I know them. That's not knowing them. I mean, truly, do you know this person? And do you know I wouldn't give a dime to any of them because it's all a front. It's an illusion.
Yes.
And we're going to have to dig in and we're going to have to redo this whole thing because I have no faith in any of them. It's going to come down to you and I taking the responsibility on our own to get in the game and saying, if I don't know anybody that's a good example or that can do it, guess what? Tag, you're it. Step up and run for something, anything, or instruct those people that are in office. You've got to get to know them, and there's got to be some awareness that there's consequences for them not upholding their oath of office, their duty. And if we don't say anything, we don't step up, there's no consequences to it. So they just keep breaking the law.
There's no accountability.
There's no accountability. And it's whose fault is that? It's our fault. It is our fault for not stepping up. We can't give that right over, that obligation or responsibility to somebody else, because they ain't going to do it because they're all in bed together. And so normal people just need to step up and figure out what you can do. So there's several things. And I think that something that came up this week was how lost everybody is, not just in research. This is what we're going to do, is we're going to try to bring things out to help you, but also in some ways to approach, say, your township, your township council, the zoning boards and such, because they're acting like little mafias. They're telling everybody what's going to happen, and they're all doing favors for their friends. If they're a developer, they should automatically be disqualified. If they're in real estate, automatic disqualification. Because they're managing the land, and that's how they're stealing the land. That's how they're violating any part of farming and putting people into 15-minute cities. And these are the base problems that we're seeing there.
Right. So, it goes into the, you talk about even the real estate, right? Let's even go further. Let's go into the insurance agents, right?
Oh man, don't get me started there. That's another one.
It's I own my wife and I own a property over on the west coast of Florida, right on the coast, and all of a sudden the insurance, a few years ago, the insurance started just rising and rising and rising. Well, you start looking into who's making these decisions, and then you look into what their background is. Well, they were insurance agents, or they were, they worked for FEMA. Now all of a sudden you're paying $6,000 a year in insurance fees. And
insurance should never be required.
No.
How can they tell you? It's just like licensing. A driver's license, it shouldn't be required. That's for traveling. Maybe for commerce. That's traveling and driving are two different things. Driving is for commerce. Traveling is a right that everyone has that cannot be infringed by licensure or insurance or any of this stuff. This is how far out of whack these people have gotten.
It's terrible. The insurance, I think we live in a flood zone, but that should be our
choice.
Decision to, okay, well, if there's a flood, then we're going to pay the consequence of that flood, which is now we're going to have to cut all of our drywall out. Now we're going to have to dry all of our house out, maybe even tear the whole thing down. That's our fault. That's our decision that we made. Not, I'm paying, I think I got the, back in the 1st of February, just a few weeks ago, it was $2,416 that I had to pay to FEMA. And then another $2,600 for this hurricane insurance. Well, in 2022, when Hurricane Ian come through, I had my house just absolutely devastated. Well, that house is in Port Charlotte, and the eye of the hurricane went directly over top of it, and it just tore everything all to pieces. The insurance agent, I got a check for $4,000. I had to I think the deductible was like $17,000. I had almost $90,000 worth of damage. I completely extinguished my savings account that I've been saving years and years and years on. to make those repairs. Still haven't got them taken care of all the way. FEMA denied any kind of assistance. And I'm like, well, what am I paying you for? What am I paying you for if you're going to deny any assistance? But yet they help the people who didn't have the insurance.
Well, look at them giving the illegals coming over the border, giving them insurance. And, we're requiring no background checks. We're requiring nothing. They don't even have to take a COVID shot, but Americans had to take that. And we're giving them insurance now. So guess what? All of our insurance bills of those of us who actually pay insurance are going to go up. And they're impoverishing Americans as second-class citizens to these illegals that need to be, all of them, deported without a backwards glance, because they know that they're coming in here illegally. Just because you want to sit there and throw a temper tantrum like a child and say, well, I want, doesn't mean you get what you want, including walking into our country and stealing us blind. It's time for them to be on, I think we need to take some of the big military planes, like, I don't know, C-130, something,
back and forth.
Something that we can get them in and just pack them in. They were packed in coming in here, pack them in going back out. We don't have to give them all a first class seat. Pack them in, out of here, send them home. And
that's how they came in here, packed in.
And then give the bill to the country that let them through, because they can go to one country, but that doesn't mean that country lets them through. So let's just say somebody goes from Central America through Mexico. Great. Mexico let them into our country. It's time to give Mexico the bill. Bill Mexico for letting them through. There's no reason why we should be playing these games with these countries. It's like, we need to get somebody in there that's just got some guts and cares about America better than every sob story that's being used by a political invader on the planet to tear this nation apart. That's Donna's little rant here today, because I'm kind of sick of all of it, and I know we all are. I'm sick of it. I'm absolutely sick of it. Let's go in here and write this nation without an apology and do what's right for this nation lawfully. I'm not talking grab your torches and pitchforks and go out there and be as stupid as the BLM and Antifa idiots, but do it in a professional way. But that's lawful, and bring the hammer down. And I mean, bring it down hard, so that if we bring it down hard, it never gets violated again. I think anybody that came in here illegally should be prohibited from ever having citizenship in this nation. And I mean ever. You come across that nation illegally, you already proved the point that you're a lawbreaker. Goodbye.
Yep.
Don't come back.
So it's not fair. It's not fair for the law-abiding citizen. It's not fair for the person who came over here legally and had to go years through the system to get legal, to get their citizenship. It's not fair to them. It's just a slap in the face to them.
If somebody wants to come here, legally, if they want to come here legally, that's great. That's fantastic. I support that 100%. But just walking in here like you own the place and then finding out you do own the place because Biden's going to give you everything you want, and that's not okay. But anyhow, well, let's go ahead and say a prayer, and then I can't wait to have you on again. This has been an extraordinary interview, and really enjoyed what you can share with us and what you have shared with us. And let's see if we can put it into a process where we know that it's a safe process, and maybe do some screenshots so that we're not live searching things, because we know that things can, every time I put YouTube on, it's always constipation or something like it. You got to sit here and go, wait for the commercial to get done or whatever. And I know that there's a lot worse things that are there too. So we're going to try to avoid that and such. So anyhow, let's go ahead and say prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so very much for Jason and Jason for coming on today, and all the wonderful service that both these gentlemen have done in service, their work that they've done for this country and the world, and especially for your world. We thank you so very much for giving us the opportunity to, in fact, do good works here, that you've put us in positions where every day there's always something that we can do to serve you, serve this world, and serve humanity, and especially to serve the United States of America, this wonderful country that you've given us, our states, that should be run by as small mini countries, really. And we ask that you would continue to lead us into the path that you've set before us, so that we can in fact know that we are doing the right thing at all times, instead of getting out in the weeds somewhere. We know that there's none of us that are perfect. We're all going to make a mistake here and there, but we have to fess up to it and right what we've done wrong as best we can and learn from those mistakes. And we're thankful for forgiveness when we do right what we've done wrong. And we want everyone out there to know that if you've made a mistake, if you've been threatened, coerced, or blackmailed, let them know that your arms are wide open to anyone who truly turns to you and wants to make things right. Those people that are liars on that side, I pray that you would absolutely confuse any plans that they have to come in as wolves in sheep's clothing, and that they would absolutely be shown for what they are, and that they would be stopped from ever hurting anyone again. No mercy to those people who have touched children or that have done just horrific crimes. We can't live this way, because we're here to protect your children, the innocent that are here, widows, orphans, all those things that you've asked us to step forward and to serve and be there to help. We thank you so much. This beautiful day ahead. We ask that you would walk closely with us. I think we're coming into a time that you've put before us that may have a lot of change involved in it. And, it's kind of an adventure. Not afraid. There's no fear here, because we know you're with us. So we're just going to go ahead forward, knowing that you got this. It's your battle. The battle is yours. And we're willing to do whatever it is that you ask us to do, because you are good always, all the time. And you've been a great friend to us. We want to be a friend to you also, and we love you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
So there we go. So with that said, we're going to go to this. Go to BrandenburgForGovernor.com, because I'm the best non-conceder who has not conceded to the liars, cheats, and thieves in our elections, which would be 2022 and 2020, because they were both fraudulent. They were lies. They're failed. It's maladministration. It's wrong. And anybody that was standing there to allow this to be certified, like the entire legislature, should be tried for treason, because they let it happen. And so with that said, we're going to go into this weekend. I don't think I'm going to be on tomorrow. I've got a little bit of traveling to do. But just so everybody knows, you're truly loved, and we do care about you. And there's a lot of good people out there that are fighting. You need to join us. It's your duty. It's not our duty to do all the fighting. It's all of us. We stand as one American family. And I don't care race, gender, I don't really care. If you're here, if you're an American, we stand here to protect your rights. And we don't always have to agree with you. But what we do have to agree on is protecting each other's rights and protecting each other's life, liberty, and property. So with that said, in a lawful process, not stupid process. So with that said, God bless you all. God bless all those whom you love, and God bless America. Have a great day. Make it so. Be tough. And if you can stay online for just a minute, I'm going to end the broadcast, Jason. So we'll see you next week.